the most out of your time at work with Karen Gately. Leadership and People Management Specialist.
Karen, it is a very interesting time with the whole #MeToo movement going on, and a lot of women sort of standing up for their right to be paid equally and all of that kind of gear. An interesting time to navigate, of course. Welcome along this morning.
Thank you. Yeah, look, absolutely it is. You know, I speak to men and women who have experiences that I think are really relevant. You know, for example, some men feel quite nervous about wanting to know, you know, exactly where boundaries are, not in terms of necessarily doing the wrong thing, but to, you know, ensure they're providing the right level of comfort. So, you know, when do I need to back off? When do I need to be supportive? When do I need to be available or not is becoming something, as an example, that's quite difficult for some people.
We saw a massive movement with the #MeToo. Of course, this kind of originated out of Harvey Weinstein and Hollywood, but really has had ripple effects around the world. From an HR perspective, Karen, have you seen much change coming from this movement?
Look, I think there is, as we've said already, awareness. I think people are talking about it a lot more. There's a lot more conversation around the issue. And there's some nervousness, but I wouldn't say I've seen a wholesale change in terms of reality. You know, I think there's still a great deal of ignorance, if I can put it that way, in terms of what's the difference between a harmless joke or poking a bit of fun versus actually causing someone to feel uncomfortable or sexually harassed. So, you know, I think as well there's still a lot of fear around what do I do if this is happening, this person's in a powerful position, and, you know, maybe I should just be quiet rather than speaking up. And that can be incredibly stressful and difficult, obviously, for the person in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
I can imagine that it is a difficult one for men that are trying to do the right thing and are in a position of power as well. How do they go about making sure that they are doing the right thing?
Well, look, you know, I've had this conversation with a number of them. I had one gentleman say to me, well, that's it. I'm just not going to have a one-to-one meeting with a woman in case I'm accused of something. You know?
Just taking the extreme.
If you can't have a conversation without feeling like there's red flags anywhere, I think the problem is you.
Yeah, a bit of an issue.
Yeah. And that was the advice I gave. I said, look, you know, I do feel like that's an extreme reaction. At the end of the day, if you are a decent man and you're not creepy, if I can put it that simply.
I'm out.
Definitely leaving that.
You know, I think it does take extreme circumstances for you to be in threat or threatened in any way. You know, yes, there is some truth behind vexatious claims happen. Sometimes people make false allegations. But in my experience, it's incredibly rare. So, you know, I think that the anxiety level should be pretty low around getting in trouble. But back to the question is that, you know, it's really about being respectful. For everybody, it's about being respectful. So if you're having some fun and you make a joke and you observe discomfort, then immediately acknowledge it and apologise.
Of course, this isn't just something that is. It's not a gender-based thing. It can obviously be, you know, implemented by either gender and towards either gender as well.
Hey, Karen, the modern workplace is even a little bit more complicated these days because of social media. We not only have conversations with our colleagues at work, but we generally connect with them online as well, and that can blur all kinds of boundaries. Do you find that there is much social media sexual harassment going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that does happen, and sometimes it's because it's deliberate and it's mean, and often it's because, I didn't read the signals, I didn't read the boundaries, and now all of a sudden I'm in a space that I don't belong. You know, and often particularly if it relates to leaders, you know, the analogy I'll use with them is as a martial arts instructor, you're on duty 24/7, and so you don't get to, you know, go down the road and get, you know, rolling drunk and all your students see you but hey, okay, let's turn up at the dojo and now you're still going to respect me. So, you know, I encourage a lot of leaders to bring that same thinking into the business world, a lot of professionals to bring that same thinking into the business world. And so if you're behaving in ways on social media that are really pushing the boundaries of people's comfort and what that means for your own reputation, you know, then I think that's risky.
For sure.
So, again, just be very mindful. Whatever you put on social media, would you be happy for grandma to see it?
Yeah.
Would you be able to explain it, or somebody other old lady that you care about?
Grand's pretty cool, so.
Would you feel comfortable being able to explain why you said what you did to a person?
Yeah.
And then I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
You just apply that rule.
No, I like that. It's good. Now, Karen, I'm someone who more than ever these days, to be honest, I don't use Facebook heaps, but I try to be friends with people that I've met in real life, or I've built up some kind of rapport with. What do you do if someone that makes you feel a bit awkward, maybe, I don't know, if you've got like a boss that makes you feel uncomfortable, or someone in the office you don't really want to be friends with, if they friend request you?
Ignore, surely.
Is that awkward though? How do you deal with them in the office?
Fine, isn't it?
I mean, I have to deal with you every day. It's very awkward.
I think it's only awkward if you choose to let it be, to be honest, because I think, for example, I have a closed Facebook account, it's just for friends and family, people I know, who I've built a strong rapport with, and I get requests all the time from other people, and, I do just ignore them. I don't mean to be rude, but that's a space for me to communicate with friends and family overseas, for example. So again, that's really up to us to say, look, that's a reasonable boundary. And if, for example, your boss was to come to you and say, oh, I sent you a Facebook request, where's the acceptance?
You must not have seen it yet.
Yeah, that's right. That's really possible.
Yeah.
I think in that moment you just say, oh, look, thank you. I did want to mention that to you.
Yeah.
I actually had I made a decision many years ago that I just keep my Facebook really, really tight and not, professional relationships.
And also, I don't like you.
Oh,
and now I'll be looking for a new job. See me for the next half an hour, or maybe looking on speak. No.
Just got to read those social cues.
Yeah.
That's right. So again, obviously you might feel awkward. They might even be a little bit embarrassed because they feel silly, whatever the case may be. Those are small prices to pay for maintaining boundaries that you are comfortable with. And certainly, if the person's a bit creepy and you're uncomfortable with them, then there should be zero awkward emotion around that. It's like, stay over there.
So you're allowed to have your emotions and feel the way you feel. Yeah, very good advice, Karen. Thank you so much for enlightening us on the hashtag #MeToo situation. We'll be back with you again next Monday.
Thank you.